What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the PS6 and 2027. I've seen quite a few different takes on this, and seems like this is kind of popping off on social media. Figured I'd throw the hat in the ring here and discuss it. This really all comes from, you could say, okay, well, why 2027? Well, there's a couple, like, you could go even actually immediately to, like, Xbox, and you think about when they did the whole court thing with the FTC and all that jazz, and, you know, there were documents, and there's a lot of belief that the Xbox console comes out in either 27 or 28, right? Now, Xbox is a little bit different because you could have the handheld, you could have the base console, and it can kind of get a little bit confusing. PlayStation is also supposed to have, you know, a rumored handheld as well, so things can definitely be messed up, and things can also be pushed, but it always seemed like the next Xbox 27 or 28, okay? Which means, you know, you're going to do the same thing for PS6. Now, a few days ago, and I actually covered this, I feel like before almost anybody, so Supermassive Games, there was a rumor that they shut down a Blade Runner game. Now, I looked through the article, I think it was Tom Henderson, Insider Gaming, very, you know, reliable guy. And when you go through the article and when you go through kind of everything, it seemed like they got some sort of internal document, like they were able to see kind of what was the game going to be, like, you know, kind of specific stuff. And one of the things that it said is it's coming out in the fall of 27, and one of the consoles it's coming out on is next-gen consoles. So they were, and by the way, this is not shocking. Like, a game in development right now, we've been saying this for a couple of years because it's kind of scary that we're here. A game in development right now is probably in development for the next gen of consoles. Now, they don't have the dev kits yet, but you can make the game, and then, you know, eventually you would put it on, or you can make it on whatever, and then as it gets closer and closer and closer, right? A lot of games that are in development right now are coming out for PS6 and the Xbox consoles. Now, we're going to get there because that's not all, like, fantastic as maybe I make it sound, but, you know, that's the situation that we're in. But then this is like, okay, this was a game actively in development. They canceled it, sure, but they were internally planning on it coming out in the fall of 27, and they knew that it would come out on the next-gen consoles. Also, I believe Supermassive's parent company is very much connected to PlayStation, and there's been stuff even on, like, their site that I think they, like, people looked into it, and there's a belief that 2027 is the year for the PS6. Let's just say that, okay? Now, this really applies to Xbox too, by the way. Don't look at it as I'm only taking shots at PlayStation. I'm taking shots at the whole freaking system here, okay? System as in the industry, I guess, not in, like, the literal PS6. Okay, I think a lot of us know that, as I just said, 2027, 2028, like, it's going to happen. It makes sense. It lines up with what we've had in the past. Like, consoles last around 7 to 8 years, right? Sometimes I think they can hit 9. Sometimes I don't really know if they can hit 6, but they normally hit 7 or 8, and then they go with the next one. So in terms of the technology, it makes sense that, like, this is the year you would do it, all that jazz. The problem, and I've been saying this for a while, is I truly do not feel like we've entered this generation of hardware and of consoles until, like, maybe a year or two ago. And to be honest with you, as somebody who's, like, in the thick of this, I don't even know if I could say that I really have ever felt that we were super into this generation. And are there games that come out, like, exclusively just on these, you know, systems of consoles? Yes, but I feel like some games are still coming out. Like, you just look around. Let me give you, like, off the top of my head, okay? Demon Slayer 2, a game that I'm probably going to get, by the way. I believe it comes out in August. That game is coming out on PS4 and the Xbox consoles. And I think we're getting to a point where, like, and this is actually not a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing. We're getting to a point where, like, the power for a lot of these games doesn't really matter. I understand, like, because the systems, like, they are more powerful, but, like, you're not always getting the most power out of these games, so you can realistically put it everywhere. You still have people on the last gen. I understand about the whole sales and cannibalizing and all that jazz, and this is something that I fought very, very much against right at the beginning when Horizon was coming out on both. I made a freaking big deal about that. When the Yuffie DLC was only on PS5, I defended that thing every day, and I got some major heat for it. I think I was like 2 years too early, because I think as time has gone on, I do think people have, like, come to my side, but it took a while. You can go back. There's all evidence out there. But, no, I mean, okay. Again, like, can that be a good thing? yeah, I mean, you're not really leaving anybody behind and this and that. But the issue is, like, we're about to do this again. And my main frustration with this generation of consoles is it just took too long. Now, yeah, it started at a rough place, right? Like, it literally came out at a very dark time, and everybody was inside, and, and there was manufacturing and production and shipping and all that stuff. There were some issues, right? But I don't think that excuses the entire industry for how they've handled this entire generation. And that really, to me, it can just be summarized as like not taking advantage of my PS5's over here, the little guy, not taking advantage of like this group of consoles. Like we just literally have not had it. There, in my opinion, there's been so few games that have really pushed this group of consoles to the max. And we've had debates this whole time of like, is it the Series S that's holding it back? Is it just consoles or consoles in general? Is it just companies in general? Like, we've had to create excuses for the general idea that like nobody's really embraced this generation of consoles. And, again, the biggest thing to me is just the exclusivity. And I know people say, well, that's a tough word. That's a scary word to use nowadays. You can alienate some people. When I say exclusivity, I'm just simply talking about putting the games on. Like, okay, here's what I've always come at it. And I've come at it even when, like I said, the early days when it felt like it was me against the internet. If you want us to get the console, you have to provide value for that console. And so that's what I mean by exclusivity. Like, in the first year or two, I get the whole cross-platform type thing or cross-generation type thing. But you got to give games that are exclusive. And then as time goes on, and I'm not talking about 4 years in, I'm talking about freaking like 2. Like, let's cut it in half. You have to move people over. And it's not because of the power. It's not because, whatever. Again, like some of that stuff is valid. It's simply because if you want people to buy the new thing, you've got to give us a reason to buy. So, everybody, this is like a common thing that I remember seeing, is that they say, okay, well, why do you want to leave so many people behind? There's all these millions of people on the PS4. So let's go back like to 2021. Why do you want to leave them all behind? Because Sony, PlayStation, they want tens of millions of people, which now they have, by the way, however many it is, 60, 70 million. They have that amount of people. Now, it wasn't like that in 2021, but they have millions of people moving forward, and they want you to move forward. And as an industry, we would want to move forward. So why do I need to worry so much about the people that don't want to move forward when they want us to move forward, so they have to give a reason for it? It never made sense to me. Like, they want you to buy the new console, but then people are saying, they're just doing right by the people that don't want to move forward. Then never make a new one. Literally, I mean, could we get there? Sure we could get there. Xbox is honestly on the right path of play it anywhere. You never need to upgrade because it'll play on your TV or your phone or your computer or your console, but it'll play anywhere to mixed results. Like, some places are going to be better than others, but you don't ever really need to upgrade. They kind of have it right there because they're not ever alienating or leaving people behind. Now, look, they're still going to release a new console, and they're still going to want people to buy that new console. So same principles, same rules apply, but they just have, I think, a better like worldview of it. With PlayStation specifically, it's like, okay, they want you to do the PS6, they want you to do the PS5, but they're not giving you a reason to do it. It can really be summed up, and it is summed up so easily and often on social media when you'll see people that post the simple phrase of like, it feels like this generation never began, or it feels like this generation just began. And I really think there is a lot of validity to that. If you want to look just at PlayStation, you look at, say, the exclusives. This has been a bad, and weak, and just not, like the opposite of strong is weak. It hasn't been a strong generation of exclusives. And I mean, like, when I say exclusives, I guess I literally mean games that are only on it. But, like, just their first-party support, it just doesn't even feel like, and even Xbox. Xbox has definitely done a pretty okay job. And PlayStation's done it here and there, like Returnal freaking rocks, Ratchet and Clank. Like, they gave us a God of War game, and that game is very good, but it just doesn't feel like, you look back at PS4, you look back at PS3, I don't see it. I don't see this being a very strong generation, and I think beyond all of that, it really does get summed up where it's like, it doesn't really feel like we ever entered this generation because it took too long. It really feels like we entered this gen, no joke, probably last year. Probably 2024 is the first year where it felt like, okay, we've really moved on, I think, considerably from from the PS4. Because even if you go back like 2022 and 2023, there were not only so many games that were still coming out on PS4 and Xbox One, but there was also the debate if you should still do games. And those are different things, right? It actually happening, and then also the mindset of, do we still have to do it? And I really think people have dropped that mindset literally in just the last 15 months. And it's like, but now we're almost done. Now we are literally almost on the next one. And here's the thing. The PS6 gen, yeah, it comes out, say, fall of 27. It's not really going to start for 2 more years at least afterwards. So it's like, in my opinion, it just kind of hurts the brand. It hurts the, like, are you going to fool people into doing this again? And I think ultimately the answer is yes, because you're going to have suckers like me that are going to get it. A lot of it's for content, but also, okay, you do put a couple new games on there. Like, I'm going to want to cover it. I'm going to want to play it. So call me whatever you want. But, they will get people. But I do wonder, like, how many people? Like what's their reach? And are people going to remember that? Because, I can remember, I can criticize, and I could still do it, I guess. But how many people are going to remember, hey, it didn't really feel like we got into the PS5 gen until like 4 years in. So when the PS6 comes out, add 4 to that, and that's when I'll get it. How many people is that actually going to... Now, and I've said this a lot. I said this with a Nintendo Switch too. We do live in bubbles. A lot of average people that are not here do not care. Do not care about a lot of things, and I actually respect that to a high degree. They don't care. They go about their lives, and they make decisions or don't make decisions. Or they do something or they don't do something. Let's say it like that, right? They might literally not care. They don't care about anything I just said, and they're either going to get it or not get it. So that's what makes it interesting, I think, because, we don't know how it's going to go. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.